Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Can you hear me? Good Shabbos. We will start our Shabbat service in one more second. And we want to welcome those joining us in Zoom, on Facebook, YouTube. We will open Mishkan Tfilah on page 186. We invite you to open your Sidurim on page 186. Thanks to you, ever-living sovereign, that you have restored my soul to me in mercy. How great is your trust. And as we slowly start to walk into the sanctuary, while you might be joining us virtually or here in person, Boker Tov to all of you. We take a moment to acknowledge the sacred space that we create with our intentions. You know, when we sing Matovu Alecha Yaakov Mishkenotecha Israel, how wonderful are your tents, Jacob, and the dwellings, your dwellings, Israel. The difference between Jacob and Israel is the difference of that of the one who decides to become. The one who understands that we have the possibility and also the ability to transform ourselves, to transform our lives. And that when we build, and we build in community, our dwellings become wonderful. מה טובו עליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, ואני ברוב חסדך, בוא ביתך, שתחווה אליך על קודשך ועילתך. אדוני אהבתי מיום ביתך, ומקום משכן כבודך, ואני אשתחווה בך, אברך לפני אדוני היוסי, ואני תפילתי היא לך, אדוני את רצון. אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת אישך. On page 194, we invite you to read the words of the blessing for the well-functioning of our bodies, and also to dedicate a moment to think about your body, to dedicate some loving attention to our sometimes forgotten bodies. We try to become aware of our breath. As we acknowledge that our breath is the key, is the connection between our existence in the world and our existence in the world to come, the eternal component of our existence. In Hebrew, breath means neshima, and soul means, it is said, neshama. As we breathe, we connect with our souls. I invite you to take a deep breath. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא כל בשר ומפליא לעשות. We are on page 196 for the blessing for our souls.
נשמה שנתת בי, טהורה היא, אלוהי, נשמה שנתת בי, טהורה היא, אתה פיררת, אתה יצרת, אתה נפחת בי, ואתה משמרה בקרבי, ואתה עתיד לתבוע ממני ולהסירה ולעתיד תבוא. כל זמן שנשמה בקרבי, מודה אני לפניך. כל זמן שנשמה בקרבי, מודה אני לפניך. אדוני אלוהי אלוהי אבותיי, אדוני אלוהי אלוהי אבותיי, ריבון עולם
אתה אדוני, אשר בידו נפש כל חי ורוח כל בשר איש. Source of all creation, sovereign of all souls. Praise are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind. As we turn our Sidurim to page 198 for the blessings for the daily miracles, Birkot HaShachar, we invite you to think about what makes your routine possible. Whatever that might be, we try to think of that, to look at that with loving attention. If that's your cup of coffee in the morning, so acknowledge that. Is that walking your dog? Acknowledge that. Count your blessings. Each of us, is that your husband, to wake up every morning and to see your partner. So we acknowledge that. We also acknowledge our bodies. We think of our bodies. All the first, 6 blessings, all of them are about our bodies. They are metaphors about our bodies. For example, the rabbis explain that Matir Asurim, who redeems the captive, has to do actually with the ability to expand our bodies. So, as we recite each of these blessings, try to think about your body, try to think about your blessings, and let's start this morning with a sense of gratitude for what we have and who we are. We're on page 198.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has given the mind the ability to distinguish day from night.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the eyes of the blind.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who frees the captive,
Amen.
to fresh our bodies.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lifts up the fallen.
That's exactly for your lower
Baruch
back.
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who stretches the earth over the water.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who strengthens our steps.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who clothes the naked.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who gives strength to the weary.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who removes sleep from the eyes, slumber from the eyelids.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made all beings equal.
Amen.
Baruch
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me free.
free. Amen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me a Jew.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who girds Israel with strength.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who crowns all Israel with splendor.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Take a moment and fill the sentence with your gratitude. Amen. Page 204. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו לעסוק בדברי תורה. O Adonai our God, let the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths and the mouths of your people Israel, so that we, our descendants, and the descendants of all your people Israel may know you by studying your Torah. For its own sake, blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, המלמד תורה לעמו ישראל.
We are on the bottom of page 206. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's parents, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all.
We turn our Sidurim to page 212 for the blessing for the Psukei de Simra.
Baruch Shemar v'Yalam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemar, Baruch Choseh Bereshit.
sovereignty. For you are the source of life in the universe. One God, life of the universe. Praise and glorious ruler. Your name is eternal. Glorify your songs of praise. מלך מהולל, ותשבחות. Page 214, we start the Psukei de Simra in Shabbat, granting Shabbat, a wonderful song, Mizmor Shir Leyom HaShabbat, Psalm 92.
מזמור שיר, שיר ליום השבת. מזמור שיר, שיר ליום השבת.
אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יעללוך הסלע. Happy are those who dwell in your house and find the words and find the ways to experience gratitude and joy in their lives. We are at the top of page 215.
אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יהללוך הסלע. 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 אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יהללוך
תהילת לדוד, רוממך אלוהי המלך, בעברך שמך לעולם ועד.
בכל ימיו וחלקה, והללה שמך לעולם ועד.
גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, בגדולתו אין חקר.
דור לדור ישבח מעשיך, וגבורותיך יגידו.
עד כבודותיך בדברי נפלאותיך אשיך.
ועזוז נורותיך יאמרו, וגדולתך אספרנה.
זכר רטוב וחייבהו בצדקתך ירננו.
חנון ורחום אדוני, ערך אפיים וגדול חסד.
טוב אדוני לכל, ברחמיו על כל מעשיו.
יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
כבוד מלכותך יאמרו, בגבורתך ידברו.
להודיע לבני האדם גבורותיו, וכבוד הדר מלכותו.
מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
עיני כל אליך ישברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם מאיתו.
פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל חי רצון.
צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, בחסיד בכל מעשיו.
קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראוהו באמת.
רצון ירף יעשה, בית שבתם משמע ויושיעם.
שומע אדוני את כל הווה, ואת כל השעים ישמיע. תהילת אדוני ידבר פי, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו, לעולם, לעולם ועד, ואנחנו נברך גם מעתה באדוני. הללויה, הללויה, הללויה. תהילת אדוני ידבר פי, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו, לעולם, לעולם ועד, ואנחנו נברך גם מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה, הללויה, הללויה. ואנחנו נברך גם מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה, as we turn our Sidurim to page 218, I think in order for us to be able to sing with everyone, we will go to A. Yeah, so let's teach this. Gabriel, do you want to help me with that? I think that learning from your beautiful voice is going to be nicer than from me trying to teach this. Just the canon, just the canon. Let's try together. Neshama, Alleluia, Alleluia. Kol ha-neshama, Alleluia, Alleluia.
of the first and the last, God of all creatures, master of all generations, who is praised in a multitude of praises, who guides the world with abundant loving kindness, and all creatures with mercy. Adonai neither slumbers nor sleeps. God awakens the sleeping, arouses those who slumber, gives speech to the mute. And God loosens the bonds of captives. God supports the fallen and strengthens those who are bent over. You alone do we acknowledge. We'll turn our Siurim to page 220 for Ilufinu. On page 222 for the last words of Nishmat Kol Chai Shochenad, followed by the blessing that concludes the Psukei de Simbra.
שוכנד מרום וקדוש שמו, וכתוב רננו צדיקים באדוני, לישרים נאווה תהילה, בפי ישרים תתהלל, ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש, ומקלות טובות עמך בית ישראל, ורינה יתפאר שמך מלכנו, בכל דור ודור, ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ, כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, שושבחה אלה וזמרה, עוז ממשלה, נצח גדולה גבורה, תהילה ותפארת, קדושה ומלכות, ברכות והודאות, מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודעות, אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך מלכי העולמים. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ואלמד יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעולם
ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי קודשיו בריחו, לעילה מן כל בחטא ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, לאמירן בהמה, ואמרו אמן.
Please rise, if you're able, for Baruch Hu on page 226.
ברכו את אדוני
May be seated. Praise are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of day and night, of light and darkness, who makes peace and fashions all things. Amen. L'Aretzu l'Avarim, Alea berachamim.
Amen. L'Aretzu l'Avarim, Alea berachamim. ובטוב מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית. ברוך מעשיך אדוני עולם בחוכמה עשית. ברוח הארץ קניינך, הציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו
ואהבתנו אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ויתרה חמלת עלינו. בעבור אבותינו ואמותינו שבטחו בך. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion. On account of those mitzvot, those teachings that you have given us, we will try to find our path, our way, to live lives of meaning, of connection. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah and your mitzvot. Guide us in peace from the four corners of the earth, and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us, truly you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Praise be you, Adonai, who chooses your people Israel in love. Baruch atah Adonai, הבוחר בעמו ישראל, באהבה.
Amen.
We're on page 232 for the Shema.
Shema
Shema
Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
We continue on page 234 with Ve'ahavta. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם נאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. We continue in English in the middle of page 236. Adonai said to Moses as follows, Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves fringes on the corners of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner. That shall be your fringe. Look at it and recall all the commandments of Adonai and observe them, so you do not follow your heart and eyes in your lustful urge. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. אמת ביציף ואהוב, בחביב בנורא בדיר בטוב ביפה אדם ועשה עלינו לעולם בהד. אמת אלוהי עולם מלכנו, צור יעקב מגן אישנו לדור ודור הוא קיים, ושמו קיים בכיסאו נחום מלכותו באמונתו להט קיימת, בדבריו חיים וקיימים, בנאמנים ונחמדים עד לעולמי עולמים. ממצרים גאלתנו אדוני אלוהינו. New silent reading over page 238. We conclude the reading of the Shema with Birkat HaGeulah, with the blessing for redemption. The symbol that our tradition uses to think about redemption is the crossing of the Red Sea. It's an obstacle that seemed to be impossible. And as we think of this Shabbat Shubah, the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we try to think about the obstacles that are in front of us, that we are facing, that seem to be impossible for us right now. And we try to think about what's the meaning of being an achshon, being the one who makes, for us in our own lives, a first step forward. Understanding uncertainty, understanding that sometimes is frightening, but understanding also that the possibility of making it to our destination is only by Yelech, as we discussed yesterday, by walking the walk, by starting to move forward, understanding that we might make mistakes on our way. However, There's not going to be a way if we don't move forward. So think for a moment what you are facing, just for one moment. Try to think of an obstacle that you are dealing with. And now try to think, and I'm quite sure that an idea will come up quite quickly. What's the meaning of stepping forward with faith? We're on page 240.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש,
מי כמוך באלים אדוני,
מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, שירה חדשה שירו גאונים לשמך שפתיה, שירה חדשה שירו גאונים לשמך שפתיה, יחד כולם הודו ממליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם בארץ. ציבור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל, תחימך יהודה וישראל. בוא עלינו אדוני זעות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני גואל
ישראל. We turn our Sidurim to page 242 for Tfilat Amidah. We want to remind you that we will be adding the additions for Shabbat, Shubah, and as we daven Tfilat Amidah, we try to find our center. We try to find the words we shall say next to the words that our tradition is providing us with. We try to find the Tfilah Shebalev, the prayer of our heart.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. לחיים, מלך הארץ.
לחוסר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם.
בעזרת שרה.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה, רב להושיע מוריד עטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים. תומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אב הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ורחמים. למען על החיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד ימיך, וקרא זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלך על הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא רבינו ומלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור.
הללויה.
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד נות לך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד נות לך. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך, קדושתך נקדיש. בשמך אלוהינו, בפינו לא ימוש, לעולם, לעולם ועד.
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לנצח נצחים ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך, קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם, לעולם ועד.
ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הקדוש.
יזמרו בעבודך שומרי שבת ועבודי יוני קודש. הם דוד ימים, אותו קראת השכל, מעשה בראשית. אלוהינו ולא יעבודנו במותינו, רצבנו חטאנו וקדשנו. תר לבנו לא לך. יצאנו אלוהינו כסף, פילף אמרת. Grant peace, goodness, and blessing, grace, kindness, and mercy to us and to all your people, Israel. Bless us, our Creator, all of us together with the light of your presence. Achenu Avinu, Be'or Panecha, Kulanu Ke'echad. During Shabbat Shuvah, we ask to be inscribed in the book of life. We are at the bottom of page 258.
בספר חיים, ברכה ושלום, ופרנסה טובה. ניזכר וניכתב לפניך. בספר חיים, ברכה ושלום, ופרנסה טובה. ניזכר וניכתב לפניך. Shalom, ופרנסה טובה. זכר וניכתב לפניך.
ברוך אתה אדוני, המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. Blessed are you, Adonai, maker of peace. We will now turn our series into page 362 in order to start our Torah service. I would like to, before we go into that, no, not yet. So, once we open the ark, we will ask you to rise. That will happen just in a few more moments. And I would like to ask Ryan, come to help us to take the Torah from the ark. Are you feeling strong this morning? Good. So we'll ask you to help us with that. And now, yes. En kamocha Elohim
Adonai, v'in k'ma'asecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai himnach le'olam va'ed. Adonai hoslam lo yitein, Adonai yevadech et amo
v'shalom. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Udvar Adonai miYerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah Boker Tov. Rabbi. So, do you know what Torah portion we are? Come on. Do you know what Torah portion we are reading this morning? Vayelech. What's the meaning of the word Vayelech? You shall go, shall move somewhere. From the word walking. Now, an interesting thing. It's not going to interfere with your Bar Torah, Rabbi, I promise. An interesting thing about the word lalechet, we have been exploring that word yesterday. Lalechet means to walk, correct. Now, what's the name of the code for Jewish law? Halacha. And halacha comes from the word alicha. So the idea of a law in Jewish tradition is something that happens as we walk. An interesting thing about this Torah portion is that God is going to hide itself within the Torah. The model of the divine presence that we knew is not going to be anymore as the God that is in interaction with our forefathers and mothers, and with Moshe. There's going to be a different model as the Torah concludes, and we are just, we are, as you know, and we are two Torah portions away from concluding the Torah. And one of the things that I think we can start thinking about in this Torah portion is, what's this idea of a God that is going to be hidden in the Torah, and that we need to find or recognize as we walk, not by standing, but actually as we walk. And from that place, the words of the prophet come to my mind. And what are those words? Kol Tmama Daka. A still, small voice. This idea that, on one hand, we recognize the divine presence actually as we walk, and on the other hand, is that divine presence is a silent one. And so we need to find also the internal silence to recognize the source of value, the source of love, the source of creation in our lives. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So I wanted to start this morning by posing a question for everyone to think about silently for a second. It's a question that is so fundamental, so simple, that it almost seems like a foolish one, but I think it really cuts at who we are as a people, who we are as a community, and what we value. How is a moment in time, how is a past moment preserved? What is it about a past event that we want to capture? Do we care about the emotions surrounding it? Do we care about the facts, the details of the event, perhaps? Are we satisfied in a past event if someone can tell you over the exact particulars of that moment? Do we care about statistics in the exact replication of details of a moment? Or is there something more? Whenever considering a past event, is there something deeper that we want? Something perhaps that's a little less tangible, but something that we can slowly inch towards. Perhaps something that doesn't just dictate how we see a moment in the past, but how we can understand who we are in the present and who we want to become looking forward in the future. You know, the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, uses the term zachor over 200 times. The word zachor, memory in Hebrew, comes to be the defining way in which Jewish tradition and the Jewish community has related to the past throughout thousands of years. When it comes to previous moments in time, previous events, be it joyous events, happy occasions, or be it terrible, lachrymose, sad tragedies, Jews don't relate to it through the lens of just facts and history, but we relate to it through the realm of Zachor. Exactly 20 years ago, just before 9 a.m. East Coast time, our modern world changed forever. The tragic events of September 11th, 2001 are seared into the memory, into the very fabric of our nation. Never have we as Americans, have we as a community felt so vulnerable, so exposed, and so in need of answers. And our country wouldn't ever be the same. The fear that proliferated throughout our world, throughout the media, the weariness by which we began to view other people who were different than us, our desire for revenge, for answers. None of us will ever forget where we were that morning, that day, or even the rest of the week on 9/11. One of the things that made the philosopher David Hume famous was he had this famous distinction between what he termed an is and an ought. An is, according to David Hume, is a fact about something. We can know the nature of something, perhaps the details of something, all of the statistics, all of the facts one needs to know about a certain event. And it is something simply tells you about the world. It's an empirical fact. Call it science, call it empiricism. That's what an is becomes. David Hume contrasted that with what he termed an ought. An ought, in the writings of the philosopher David Hume, is an imperative. An ought isn't discovered by simply meditating on facts, simply discovering empirical data, simply by doing scientific analysis. An ought requires something deeper, moral introspection, a community coming together, thinking about its fundamental values and what it finds important. And one of the things that David Hume pointed out about an is that you can never derive an ought from an is. You can know all of the details about something. We can know all of the scientific facts, all of the empirical data about a person, a situation, a moment in history. But that will never become an ought. That will never tell us what we need to do to rectify the situation or to provide some justice. An ought must come through the process of deep introspection, both personal introspection and also the introspection of a community. And just like David Hume's is-ought distinction, Judaism preserves that exact same dynamic between the way we understand history and memory. History in Judaism is an is. It's a set of facts. It's a set of details and data. Whereas memory, Zachor, comes with an ought. Just like in Tanakh, just like in our Hebrew Bible, every time it uses the word Zachor, it comes with an imperative. Remember this, and therefore you shall do that. So too, our memory of past events as a community must come with a call to action, a way in which our remembrance, our memory of an event, inspires something deep inside of us to want to change ourselves, our community, and the world for the better. The question I want to pose this morning on the 20th anniversary of the horrific events of 9/11 is, what is the memory of 9/11 we want to have moving forward? You know, today most students through college were born after 2001. Many in their 20s are too young to have any personal recollection towards 9/11. But as a collective, as a congregation, as a Jewish community, as an American community, or even as a world, how do we want to remember this event? How do we want future generations to look back and understand the events? As Rabbi Nico noted, this week's Parsha is Vayelech, and we're nearing the end of the Torah. We've made it through all 47 previous chapters, and we're at a moment where the Jewish people have gone on their entire journey and they're at the end of the road. They're finally on the east side of the Jordan. They're waiting to cross over into the land of Israel. And the last fifth of the Torah is an extended speech that Moshe gives the Jewish people as they're about to cross the Red Sea. And this entire speech can actually be thought of as a memory. Moshe is recounting past events from the history of the Jewish people and explaining them what their moral imperative is going to be moving forward as they attempt to set up their own nation. And then at the very end of the Parsha, the very last commandment, the very last thing that Moses tells the Jewish people that they must do, is he says that every single Jew, every single person in the community must actually write for themselves their own Sefer Torah. After all of the events in the Torah, after everything the Jews have been through, now it's the time for them to make it personal. All of the biblical commentators note that the process of writing something down, the process of taking a story that's in our mind, perhaps that we've been told orally, and actually writing it down for ourselves is a way of making something personal. When we write a narrative for ourselves, it's a way that it becomes internalized. It's a way that we give our own personal commentary and our own personal flavor to the Torah. It's an imperative that we must each be a part of the chain of transmission in Judaism, from the past through the present, looking towards the future. And what I want to say on the 20th anniversary of 9/11 is that as Jews, we must be a part of giving our country, our community, a memory of September 11th. What is the ought created by this tragic moment 20 years ago? We know the details, we know the facts, we know what happened. But what now needs to happen? Do we need to spend more time cherishing our values of democracy? Do we need to spend more time focusing on what unites us as a nation instead of worrying about what divides us? Do we perhaps need to value every single moment a bit more because we know that the nature of the world is that random tragic events can happen, and we should truly be thankful for every minute and time we have together? Whatever the values that we wish to glean are, this weekend we need to take a moment and step back and ask ourselves and truly dwell on the question of what a memory of 9/11 looks like moving forward. In the words of Yosef Yerushalmi, the famous Jewish historian of the 20th century, in Judaism, the antonym of forgetting is not remembering, but it's justice. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi Daniel, words well said. If you have a Torah book, our Torah reading starts on page 1547 with Deuteronomy 31, verse 1. Tamod, Tamod, Lori Nada. And chanting Torah will be Mark Filowitz. We do. Mark. Amen. Amen. Yasher Koach. Yamod, Yamod, Harav Nico ben Yoram Batya, and for the blessings, Saida Yacobian.
But let's do it together.
Okay.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. And people answer?
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach.
And we repeat, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, אשר בחר בנו מכל עמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
And now you can come with me. You can. I lost it again.
Yasa Adonai.
I think the rabbi is starting to need. No, it's okay. I just need to find the read. Here it is. ועשה אדוני להם כאשר עשה לסיחום ולאוג מלכי האומרי בלא ארצם אשר השמיד אותם ונתנם אדוני לפניכם ועשיתם להם ככל המצווה אשר ציוויתי אתכם חזקו ואמסו אל תיראו ואל תריצו מפניהם כי אדוני אלוהיך הוא ההולך עמך ולא ירפך ולא יעזבך. You can touch it again. Close. Right here. And then we go and we do the blessing that concludes this section of the Torah reading. Okay.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי אלוהים נטל
בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני.
בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן.
התורה, אמן. מי שברך אבותינו ואמותינו, אברהם יצחק ויעקב שרה רבקה רחל ולאה, הוא יברך וירפא את, what's your Hebrew name?
Hebrew name I don't have. Munir is my name.
סיידי.
Sayyid, yes.
הקדוש ברוך הוא ימצחך ביחזקך באורך רוח ובאומץ לב, וישרה עלייך מרוחו לרפך, ברפואה שלמה, רפואת הנפש, רפואת הגוף, עם כל חולי עמו ישראל, we will say amen.
תודה, תודה.
You can go in this direction, and you will stay here, yes.
Okay.
יעמדו יעמדו כל ההורים לחתן ולכלה, all parents of our bride and groom.
But Saidi will stay here, and Ronnie, Richard, all the parents of the groom and the kala. Come on. We can sing something. La 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 We're going to do the reading of the third Aliyah. You can do the blessing. I help you out. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam אשר בחר בנו מכל עמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. You can get closer.
We're
are
on
much
page
strong. It's fine.
we're on page 1548, verse 7. Nitza Hennig is our chanter.
ויאמר אליו לעיני כל ישראל חזק ואמץ כי אתה תבוא את העם הזה אל הארץ אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותם לתת להם ואתה תנחילנה אותם ואדוני הוא ההולך לפניך הוא יהיה עמך לא ירפך ולא יעזבך לא תירא ולא תחת ויכתוב משה את התורה הזאת ויתנה אל הכהנים בני לוי הנושאים את ארון ברית אדוני ואל כל זקני ישראל.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. Amen. I will ask all of you to stay here. Come to the second side, all of you together. Just stay here. And we call now the Hatam Bekala. Ufruf literally means, not yet, to come up. We stand there. Now we're going to make an event out of calling you up. Wait a second. Well, and I think that there are two wonderful things that are symbolized in an Ufruf, or as we say in Hebrew, Shabbat Chatan Bekala. There are traditions in which we do it the Shabbat before the wedding, and there are traditions in which we do it the Shabbat immediately after the wedding. And I think that as you are building your home, to recognize that we don't only build our own unit. As we build our home, we try to build our extended home. We try to connect with the Jewish community, with the homes of our parents, with the homes of our siblings, because we understand that that unity that we are creating is innate, is connected with many other unities that will help us remain together and will give us support as we support them. We live in community, so we are glad that you are also celebrating your wedding, Ma'ava Eleinu Letovah, next week in the community. Yamdu, Laliat Amaftir, Dana Bad, Seidi, and Brian. Do you have a Hebrew name, Brian, that I need to know now? Dan, you are Dan. Natan? Matam Imen. Matam, Ben. Hebrew names? No Hebrew names? Not yet? We'll fix that in the next couple of weeks. Ben Roni. Sina? Sima? Sina? Rachel. Sima Rachel? Sima Rachel and Richard and Harold. La Aliyah, la Torah. La 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 ya da 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 la la da da ya da 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 la da da la da la da ya la da da ya da 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 ya da 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 la da da you want to say bracha? Baruch Adonai mevorach leolam vaed.
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Come closer.
הקהילו אליי את כל זקני שבטיכם ושוטריכם בדברי באזניהם את הדברים האלה וידע בם את השמיים ואת הארץ כי ידעתי אחרי מותי כי השחת תשחטון וסרתם מן הדרך אשר ציוויתי אתכם וקראת אתכם הרעה באחרית הימים כי תעשו את הרע בעיני אדוני להכעיסו במעשה ידיכם וידבר משה באוזני כל קהל ישראל את דברי השערי הזאת עד תמיד תומה.
And then you go for the
Closing
second blessing. You touch with your talit the end of the reading, and then you go to the second. Yeah.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. We'll take a moment to acknowledge those that came up to the Torah. We'll say blessings. Just a second. Just leave it. We'll take a moment to acknowledge those that came up to the Torah. Brian, Dana came next to me, 1 sec. We'll say first for those that came up to the Torah, we'll say, Misheverach Avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Friends, those that are here, I feel that I'm competing with your voices. I will wait for you. You know, we create community by being intentionally present. So let's be here for one moment as we acknowledge those that came up to the Torah. We say, Misheverach Avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. We avarech all those that came up to the Torah in honor of God, Shabbat, the Torah, the Ufruf, all the beautiful things that we have in our community. May God bless all of you in all your endeavors and rescue from any trouble or distress, from any illness, minor or serious. May God send blessing to all of you together with all Israel. And let us say,
Amen.
We say, Misheverach Avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. We yavarech et hacholim. May the one who bless our ancestors will bless those that are ill. If you have a name that you'd like to share in this morning of Shabbos, we invite you to do so, whether you are here in person or you are joining us in Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube. Bring them up. May the blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health, your health, our health to be restored, and their strength to be revived. May God send blessing to all of them, blessing of healing, blessing of recovery, together with all Israel. And let us say, we wish to all of them, to all of you, refuah shlema v'achlama meira. Now let's talk with you for one moment. We'll make your workout. Dan and Tali, can I ask you for your help a little bit? Joy, can you come too? We'll open a talit, open over your heads. I'm sure you can work this out. Dan, for you, it's very easy. Tali, maybe you want to step there. Richard, you can take this one. Joy, take this one. Let's make sure that this couple is under the chuppah. Now you get together. Oh, perfect. Come on, you can do better here. Perfect. Look at you. I never had someone like you. You know, I think we are not supposed to say that someone is the best. but right now, I have a paper. I do have a paper, just in case. You know, Rabbi Daniel was speaking about 9/11. We know what are the consequences of unjustified hatred in our world. You know, the destructive power that hatred has. And maybe because of that, at the end of and each of them is accompanied by Hey, Aleph, Hey, Bet, hey, right? Torah says that you will leave your households and you will become one flesh, but not one soul. Each of you needs to keep his, her own space, your souls. The letter Hey in Hebrew symbolizes neshama, symbolizes soul. The home that you need to create is a home that can hold your two souls with the differences that you have. Understanding that compromise is sometimes a good solution. Sometimes people say, well, the key for marriage is compromise. It's not. Don't get it wrong. That's a good solution sometimes, but no more than that. The key for marriage, if I can humbly say, is commitment. It's commitment. It's to decide every day when you wake up that this is the life that you want to have and the life that you want to share with each other. One last thing. Another one is that in our tradition, simcha, joy, is something that happens in partnership. We say simcha, we will say in your wedding in 8 more days, sameach tesamach re'im ahuvim. These two loving companions, will find joy in each other. Kesameach yetzircha began eden mikedem. As God, looking at you, is finding joy as he, she, they see your love. The creator of the world feels that her creation are coming to completion because you are bringing hope and love to a world and joy who desperately needs it. We'll say, Yevarchechem Adonai beish merechem, may God bless you and protect you. Yair Adonai panav elechem bichunekem. May God's light shine upon you and may God be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elechem ve'asem lechem shalom. May you find within you God's presence always. May you recognize each other's soul always. May you don't compromise, but rather commit. And may you find wholeness. May you find Shalom. Masal tov, congratulations, B'sha'ah tova. We say, Yalai dai dai. You can kiss each other and bless your parents. Yalai dai dai. Yai dai 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 dai. You can hug each other. Yalai dai. Yalai dai 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 dai. Yalai dai dai. Yai dai. האהובים שמחך יצירך בגן עדן מקדם ירה לי 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 please rise ירה לי 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 בגן עדן מקדם. You may be seated. Congratulations, Brian and Dana. We can't wait for your wedding. please rise. La, 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 la. השיבנו, אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו כקדם. Return us to you, God, and we will return. Renew our days as of in days of old. We turn our Siurim to page 586 as we acknowledge that our way back, the way of return, starts from within our hearts. Ve'ashevota el levavecha. You may be seated. Thank you. We take a moment now to acknowledge mourners among our community. If you are during the first 7 days of mourning, we invite you to please rise and to share the names of those who you are remembering. Elaine? If you are during the first 30 days of mourning, Shloshim, please rise. If you are during the cycle of the first year of mourning, please rise and share with us who you're remembering.
John Giano.
If you have a yahrzeit this week, anniversary of someone's passing by this time of the year in years past, please rise. Now you can support our fellows while standing or sitting, joining us with your voices or your hearts for Mourners Kaddish on page 598.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו, יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו, יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו, עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו,
Amen.
The memories of your dear ones be always a blessing in your life. Yeh Zichram Baruch. So, before we conclude the service, I want to share that tonight, or this afternoon, this evening, it's not night, it's not afternoon, 6 p.m. is evening, right? Okay, there's a general agreement over that.
evening.
So, 6 p.m. We will be gathering for Tashlich. It's not going to start until 6:30. So, but just for you to know, if you want to bring some dinner and sit in the park, we are going to be in Acacia Park. We invite you to join us. Once again, Tashlich, this idea of casting our sins, it's not that you get rid of your wrongdoings. It has to do with this idea that we recognize that sins in our tradition are places in which we have missed the mark. And so we try to give some physical expression to that recognition. So that's number one. Number two, Yom Kippur, Wednesday night, and then Thursday, all day long.
And then Friday is a family service. No.
Shabbat service.
Okay, but it is my birthday.
That is your birthday. It's Gabby's birthday. And Friday, like next Friday, let's stop for one moment the conversation about Yom Kippur. Let's acknowledge what's important. And Gabby's birthday is on Friday. So please tune in. Now, Yom Kippur, going back to Yom Kippur. So I want to give you some homework for Yom Kippur, for you to start preparing for Yom Kippur. Two things that I would like you to entertain as you are thinking about Yom Kippur. The first one is about Kol Nidrei. Kol Nidrei, when we say all these vows that we have made are annulled and are canceled, and it's like we haven't made them. Now, the idea of Kol Nidrei is for us to be able to recognize things that we haven't been able to fulfill, and then, when we acknowledge them, to somehow find our way to try something else or try again. But the idea is to be able to recognize those things. So I invite you to think before coming to Kol Nidrei about the commitments, the vows you have made, you haven't been able to fulfill. And sometimes those vows tie us to things that we shouldn't be tied to them anymore. And because we don't acknowledge that situation, we keep ourselves in the wrong place. So, number one. Number two, I want to, for those that are going to say Iskor, I want to give you some homework for Iskor. As Rabbi Daniel was saying, the function, the role of memory in Jewish tradition is a very important one. And we often think of Iskor as a very sad moment of Yom Kippur. On the other hand, memory is a privilege. It's a zchut, the possibility to remember someone or several human beings that were meaningful in our lives. It is a privilege. It is a gift. So in preparation for Iskor, in order to be able to enjoy that gift beyond only mourning, the purpose of Iskor is not to connect more deeply with your mourning. We sometimes become mourners forever, and to some extent, that's part of the reality of our lives. In Iskor, we try to access a deeper layer of zikaron, of memory. So I want to invite you to think about what you want to think about in Iskor. We usually come to Iskor and then it happens to us. Prepare for that. Try to think about the things that you would like to dedicate some time to ponder, to have in your mind, in your heart, in Iskor. Because they will be memories we will gather, we will treasure, and they will accompany us as we make our way through this year. With all that said, we will conclude our service on page
662 on the top.
662, Had Sha'alti. The only thing that I ask for is to find a place in your house.
Had Sha'alti
ימי חיי, לעשות בנועם, בנועם אדוני, ולבקר בחלום.
לעשות בנועם,
בנועם אדוני,
ולבקר בחלום.
אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמיו בשלום. שבת שלום everyone. Good Shabbos.
In the outside